I'm starting a new life.
Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be accepted into their respective families and communities. But transitioning from incarceration back into society can be very traumatic. Now, for women, the process of coming home has so many distinctive sets of challenges, but their experiences are often overlooked. So, we at Arc Republic wanted to capture these women who navigate reintegration back into their communities with a lens wrapped in dignity and humanity. To do that, we spoke to returnees and reentry practitioners living in Philadelphia to hear their stories. Welcome to the Being Beloved podcast.
I'm starting a new life, turn wrongs into right. This is the Being Beloved podcast.
Teacher, lyricist, activist, and artist Blak Rap Madusa lived two lives. By day, they were a scholar and intellectual. By night, they hustled until Madusa's world collided. Serving some years in a Texas prison, they re-entered back into society with perspective and purpose. Now Madusa uses an intersection of scholarship and advocacy in creative and political acts of revolution. But still, the emcee must navigate the stigma of doing time. Here's their story. Welcome to Arc Republic. My name is Dr. Kaia Shivers, and we are on the Being Beloved podcast. The Being Beloved, or the Being Beloved podcast, is a podcast dedicated to capturing the experiences of formerly incarcerated women, but from a lens and angle of grace, love, and humanity. Today, we are speaking to Madusa, and Madusa is going to tell their story. So let's chop it up. Welcome, Madusa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. This has been such a journey. I know your journey has been quite an experience. So I wanted to start a little bit from the beginning and let us know, who are you?
Okay.
Who you be, how you came to be.
Okay. My name is Madusa Carter, a.k.a. Blak Rap Madusa. I'm a hip-hop artist or an activist artist. I'm born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I spent a lot of time in Houston, Texas.
Really?
I went to school at the University of Pittsburgh. And I lived in Atlanta, Virginia, and a couple other places.
Okay, so I'm gonna, I am a child of 1975 when hip hop they say, is just emerging, right?
Okay.
What is a hip hop activist these days, right? Because it was something else back, in the golden age when I was, a tender. Yeah. But what is it now?
I'm a boom bap artist, so I particularly like the old school hip hop feel. I like original beats. I like people that, I don't like a lot of, I do the modern in a way that, it connects to my audience, but my biggest thing is to put socially conscious music out there that, talks about the times. You know what I mean? I'm a fan of Nina Simone, and one of the biggest things that really made an impression on me was that, an artist's duty is to write about the times, is to talk about the times, and so my music reflects that.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I think a lot of artists either are not allowed or taught maybe that part of their artistry is therapeutic and healing, and is a spiritual and maybe social responsibility, right? In which there's this relationship with the universe. I know I'm getting artsy-fartsy.
No.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the whole thing. That's not what sells. And so a lot of these record companies, a lot of these industry execs, their biggest thing is putting out music that, defames black people. That tells you to use drugs, to sell drugs, to whatever you put out that's essentially, detrimental to the community is going to sell. Mm-hmm. Hate sells. But when you start talking about, and any of these artists out here tell you that these record execs, they'll tell you, no, you can't. Don't put out no conscious music. We're not putting out nothing that's telling. If you talk about killing anybody white, if you talk about killing a police officer, if you talk about anything, any type of retaliation that's not in your own community, they're not going to put it out.
Yes. I'm glad you said that. My husband was an aspiring hip hop artist and actually got his beats made by Clark Kent at around the same time Biggie is getting his beats. And he always tells this story about how he went to I forgot the name of the company, and they put an artist on the table and played the album, and it was like a lot about death and destruction, and they were like, we'll sign you if you do it that way, you know what I mean? And so he declined, but you know, and that was in like, let's say mid 90s. So this has been going on for a very long time. Right. I would say the difference between then and now is that there was a presence of conscious, you know, artists. Right. So you had a group to, you know, embrace you. Now, you don't hear that. You know what I'm saying? So if it's mainstream, you have to be and do something else. So thank you for staying on your dean, you know, and your constitution of that. Yeah. So let's get into growing up in Harrisburg. I'm from LA, so you know this is all new to me.
Okay.
Let me know what happened.
So I actually grew up in foster care, and a lot of what I experienced, you know, was really a positive childhood outside of living with my biological mother. My foster parents were good to me. They raised me in a good community. So we had a village. We had people that, you know, actually cared about us. We could play outside at that time, you know what I'm saying? We stayed outside till the street lights came on. That was life. Living with my biological mother was a little bit different. She was an addict and a prostitute, essentially. And so I only lived with her for a few years, but it was really, really traumatic. And really, I think, is what kind of just turned my world upside down, really, because I loved her a lot. I loved her a lot, and I wanted to stay with her, but her lifestyle wouldn't let me. And so I felt unsafe. I had siblings. I'm the oldest. They were relying on me to protect them, but I couldn't stay. And so I ran away. I ran away and actually put myself back in foster care. Like, it was like, nah, I don't want to, I actually chose to go live with my mother. When my grandmother passed away at 8, I chose to go, you know what I'm saying, I go live with my mom, right? So it was bad. It was horrible. I stayed with her for maybe a month. And I ran away to church. And the church was like, okay, well, you know, we're going to send you to foster care. And so while I was in foster care, though, I had met, you know, like I met my siblings, and I was proud of being the oldest. I was proud of, you know, being their protector. So I stayed maybe a few years up in York, Pennsylvania, maybe like 5 years. I stayed in that home, and I asked my caseworker to go back and live with my mom. My mom was doing a little bit better then, but not a whole lot better. So I went and I stayed with her for a couple years, actually. And then I stayed with her for maybe a couple years, and then I couldn't take it. And so I ran away at 14. I maybe stayed on the streets a little bit, stayed with some friends, stayed with some relatives, and then I asked to be put back in foster care. Well, let me just say that I got arrested for stealing, and the judge gave me an ultimatum. He said, either you go to, you know, juvenile placement, or you go back into foster care, and I chose foster care. I said, let me go back into foster care. And that saved my life, for real. My foster mother was no joke. She made me work. I ran track. I had no free time to do anything, except for, like, you know, it was go to church. It was go to practice. It was go to work. There was no time to, like, hanging out with your friends. Maybe, you know, you can hang out with your friends here. I couldn't go out and hang out. She just wanted to kind of keep an eye on me. And needless to say, I ended up with a full scholarship to Texas Southern University.
TSU.
Yeah, yep. So I got on the first thing smoking and got down there, and, you know, essentially you age out of foster care.
Yeah.
So there's no going back. Like, I didn't have a home to go back to for Thanksgiving or any of the holidays, so I was there. So I ended up staying in Houston for maybe 10, 12 years.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so your early adult years, Houston shapes you, right?
Yeah. Houston shaped me, everything.
But before we get into that, it's a couple of questions that I have, right? When we think about our childhoods, now that we are older and we're in the reflective mode, I see there are like instances or nodes in our trajectory of life that like define us or how we see us. What was your understanding of love and being loved at that time? And what was a moment that you can connect that understanding to?
Oh, the last person who loved me was my grandmother, my Jamaican grandmother. Raised me in the church, hugged me, told me she loved me, told me I was beautiful, all of those things. I didn't get that after she passed away. I didn't get that anywhere from anybody. Even though I felt like safe, I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel like my foster parents really, you know, I didn't feel like it was their job to love me.
Wow.
Yeah, I felt like it was their job to keep me safe and to take care of me, to give me food, clothing, and shelter. I didn't feel like it was their job to love me. And so even today, like, the last real love that I felt was her. So.
And what is your understanding of what that love is or was?
I just think like the unconditional, hard, you know, kind of love, like the nurturing, the, you know, the honest, the truthful, the affectionate, the stable kind of love.
Mm-hmm. So, well, you very rarely do I hear anybody, and I used to work with foster care youth, so very rarely have I even seen or heard anybody say from that experience, I actually have foster parents that provided me a space or a foundation in order for me to grow, you know, and go to college, right?
Yeah.
What were some things you learned in that household that are a part of who you are now?
Well, I think coming from living with my mother, who lived in the projects, who lived, you know, sharp contrast between the foster homes and living with her, sharp contrast between my grandmother. Like, it was just really sharp because we were poor. And it was the first time in my life that I felt poor. And knew it. And then I was the oldest, and so my mother couldn't read, my mother couldn't write, so I was filling out all the paperwork for lunch forms, I was filling out rental forms, I was, you know, whatever mail came in the house, I was reading it, so I was essentially leading the house. And then also, you know, as the oldest, I was taking care of my mother was gone a lot, so I was also taking care of the children and kind of taking care of her because she was still in her addiction, you know what I'm saying? So that was, it just made me grow up, and I didn't have time to like try to figure out what am I supposed to be doing at 12. What are the things that I should be experiencing, because I just went into, you know, caring for my siblings mode.
Now I know we've grown and we've lived, and you can't turn back the hands of time, but there are moments that I have now as almost a 50-year-old woman, I cannot believe I'm saying that, but that I would say if I had that experience or if I had that resource, maybe I would have been a little different. What is that? Have you had that? Like,
I don't regret anything that I experienced, because the type of ambition, the type of dedication and commitment I have to, you know, to leading my people out of destruction wouldn't have come unless I had seen that, because we, you know, we kind of lived, you know, middle-class black life. And it wasn't until I got to, you know, be in the dungeons, rather, you know what I'm saying, that I got to see how my people live.
Right.
Like, just really different. It's really different from knowing that, my grandmother made breakfast in the morning.
Right,
And
right.
matter of fact, we couldn't even go out the house without even cereal. Like, she would try to buy us the American cereal, but then she put warm milk in it, and it just threw the whole thing off. You'd be like, what is this? What is this warm milk? Well, I can't. The Lucky Charms is melting. I can't do this.
Well, let me kind of flip it. This is what I mean. Okay, there was a movie that came out some years ago. I forgot the name of the movie, but it was the 3 women who worked at NASA.
Oh yeah,
Right,
yeah.
in NASA. I forgot what was it?
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures, right?
Yeah.
So when I was looking at Hidden Figures, I was like, if I had that example, how would my trajectory of life changed in terms of regards to that? Not like, oh, I regret how I live, but like, how could I have blossomed in a whole other way? You know what I'm saying? Not saying that how I blossomed there was like a detriment or a lack thereof. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm, just something, because I'm always, especially me as a professor, I'm always thinking about like, how do you, feed the young folk like the food they need in order to be fully who they are.
Right.
Because regardless of what our circumstances are, my opinion, you as a black person in this country, there are things that you don't get, and so your development looks different.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a lack, but it looks different. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Oh, I think I think even because as a lesbian, I also have issues with dealing with women. So I think some of those love issues, I think I was desperate for my mother to love me. And so that really shaped the way that I go about, doing things. Unfortunately and fortunately, right? That's part of my ambition. Because I didn't feel that from her. I go hard in the work that I do. So I think that had I felt that, or had I known that, or had she we don't even hug for real. I mean, we hug now, but it's not like, it's like kind of late. It's like kind of a little too late for me.
Right.
But I think that had I had that love and affection from her, I may be able to, love differently today. Yeah.
A mother's love is a very interesting dynamic, right? You know what I'm saying? And we'll talk about more of that later, but let's get into Houston. H-Town down, here we go. All right. Hey!
713 281.
You know what I'm saying? You were in Houston for 10 years. That's a chunk of change. When you got to Houston, what were your experiences that you feel shaped you to who you are?
Oh, man. I think living in the dorm, I met a stud for my first time.
Me too, I think.
Right. Oh, man.
At FAMU, yes.
Push my wig way back, because I didn't even know they was doing it like this. We had tomboys back home, but we didn't have no studs per se. Yeah. So to see this person walking down the hallway in a white beater, and I can't make this up.
Looking like Queen Latifah from Set It Off?
No, beyond. Looking like a whole dude. A whole dude walking with a little flip-flops and a towel, and and going to the bathroom. And I'm like, had a grill, everything. She was from Dallas, and her pronouns were she, so it wasn't like we didn't have pronouns then. So it's walking down, and the song, can I cuss on this?
All day.
The song, Pussy, Weed, and Alcohol.
Who did that song?
I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know. I don't even know.
That's one of them local hits.
She was, exactly, because you know how Houston do it.
Yes.
So she's walking down the hallway singing this song, Pussy, Weed, and Alcohol, seem to satisfy us all. I was like, it just floored me. It floored me.
Now, were you said you got a track? See, that's what I was about to say, because I was a softball. I had a softball scholarship.
Okay.
And I saw the basketball team, and it was like stud.
Yeah.
Stud.
Oh yeah. For sure. We had a couple on our track team, but they was mainly on the girls basketball team.
See,
And I say, look, threw me for a whole loop. If I was questioning, if I was trying to figure it out, she made it very clear for me, and it was a life-changing experience. And then I came out in Houston.
Okay.
And just having a whole community of women, of lesbians that embrace you. And so it's not like like I said, back home, everybody was in the closet. You knew they got down, but it wasn't like they were talking about it. It wasn't a conversation to say, I like a girl or whatever. That wasn't happening. But there, everybody was out. There were places to go. There was, we had volleyball teams and football teams, and, they had something called Splash, where you go to the beach, you go to Galveston and shut down the whole Galveston beach, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it was crazy. But it was a really good time, and for me.
This must have been pre-social media.
Yeah, I mean, they had MySpace.
Oh, yeah, no, MySpace don't count. MySpace does not count.
They had Black Planet.
That does not count. I was thinking, I said, this was before the Instagram and all that.
Oh, no, they had no IG. No, none of that.
Nobody in this studio would have a job. Okay,
no,
but anyway.
No, it was definitely before that, and it was everything. It was some really... just some really clear ways of affirming my identity and helping me to create it, without shame or guilt or without any Bible thumpers or whatever. It was just like, and folks went to church. You know what I'm saying? Folks did, whatever. They just went to certain churches. So, yeah, that was really affirming.
So, what made you leave Houston?
So... we ended up losing funding for the girls' track program. As you know, HBCUs, especially when it comes to girls' track. Now, if it had been football, basketball, it might have been okay, but we lost funding. And I guess they were only down for a year or so, but I had been at nationals. I had been, I was putting the school on the map for triple jump, long jump, just, shameless plug. I was doing really great, and I was placing top in the country, and we lost funding. And one of the things that my coach was saying was like, well, we're going to take some of the funding from your teammates and give it to you for you to stay. And I was like, I can't be eating with these fools in the child hall and knowing that they don't have the money to be in there. Like, that's crazy. I can't be on, out at track meets knowing you starving. That's not okay. And so I ended up transferring to the University of Pittsburgh, where I finished my last 2 years. And then I went back to Houston because I loved Houston. So I went back to Houston. I went to grad school. I couldn't find a job.
What were your majors?
My major was African Studies.
Okay. Wow.
So I couldn't, and TSU didn't have
too?
it, but, I was going to do history.
Okay.
Because TSU didn't have an African Studies department. You couldn't major in African literature, African history, African anything, because they felt like we Black. So you don't need all that. But the University of Pittsburgh had a really awesome program founded by Rob Penny, and their African Studies program was top notch. And so getting back to Houston, majoring, getting my master's in history, again, like I said, I couldn't find a job. I was either, overqualified or underexperienced. And so I started hustling.
Let me table that. A lot of people don't know that when I was getting my PhD, so for me, when I graduated undergrad and I went back to LA, I worked as a journalist, then I worked with foster care youth because I got fired from my job. And I had all these, and I was a lifeguard, so I had all of these skills, right? But for those who go straight through school, through the masters and everything like that, and haven't really taken time out to work, these people were washing dishes getting their PhDs, right? Because all you know is the academia, and a lot of people would not think that is a thing, but it very much is a thing. So I wanted to table that, because people are like, well, how's she gonna have a degree and then working on her master's and she can't find a job? It is a very, very, very real thing.
No, it was real.
And so you started
hustling. I started hustling.
Was it easy for you to make the decision, or how did that happen?
So before I got in my last foster home, I was already selling weed. So I knew how to sell weed. But in Texas, they right there in the Mexican border. That was a little,
You was getting hookup.
Yeah. So essentially, and the lifestyle took me fast. I wasn't ready for that lifestyle, and so school became secondary for me. And I just went with the lifestyle, and between the women and the money, it just kind of, the whole lifestyle took me fast, and I ended up getting arrested and becoming incarcerated, and so. I was very Black conscious when I first got into the institution, and so I was calling everything out. All of the Black CEOs, all of the everything. No, this is racist. This reverse racism. This is anti-racist. This is anti-Black. I was calling out everything, and they was like, you know what, little whippersnapper, we got something for you. And they put me in a maximum security prison.
Whoa.
Maximum security. My first bid. Like, I had never been arrested. Well, I had been arrested as a kid, but it wasn't on my record.
Yeah, that's juvenile offense.
Yeah, so, like, this is my first case. This is my, you know what I mean? Y'all put me in max. Everybody got double digits to life. And y'all put me in max with 2 years? So, it was, thank goodness I'm faithful. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a faithful person, so I I wasn't afraid. And I had lifers and cellies, and none of them crossed me. In fact, I maybe got into, the weirdest scuffle in my whole life. My girlfriend there had some beef with somebody. We got into this wild argument. I had on slides. And so my first time going to hit somebody, I slid up under
slid through the shoe.
It was so crazy. I went to hit the person and I slid, and they was fighting over top of me. And I was trying to get back up. But I was sliding, trying to get, by the time I got back up, the fight was over. So I just was like, all right, and my girlfriend, she had a bunch of assaults, so she done whooped everybody. I got up like, it's done. All right, this is it.
I'm good.
But like I said, I had, I met people who were thorough. And people that, that actually loved me. So it was, they did all types of things.
What's a chi-chi?
Also, a chi-chi is, you know that all over the prison world is something called a chi-chi, and it's like you crush up chips and oodles and noodles. You crush that all up, put that together. They put it in a pot. I don't make it because somebody always made it for me.
Right.
But like you put like your little cheese, your sausage, you put all that stuff in there, and you let it sit, and it kind of forms like a little, not hard, but like just like a little more solid, and so you can cut it and you can share it with people.
Okay, so it becomes like not a cake, but like a hard, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, so like I don't even want to liken it to a meatloaf, but like something like so you could share it, and it's hearty, so it's gonna fill you up. Even that little piece is gonna fill you up. So, so we had chi-chis. We had they made cakes out of the little Twinkies and whatever you got. They would. Again, I don't make it, but I certainly enjoyed it.
So I have a question. Why you only did 2 years?
Only did 2 years.
Did you reach out to any family, any of your siblings?
So for the first 6 months, nobody knew I was incarcerated.
Why not?
Because I didn't remember nobody's number. I called my ex at the time. My ex called my sister, and so whatever it took for my sister to find me, right? Because you get processes out of the county into the state. You out in the middle of. I was in Marlin, Texas, so it's like, who lives out there? How do you find your loved one? You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure many people go through that. Once your folks get incarcerated, you don't know where they shipping them to, where they sending them to. Especially if you do time in the feds, you could be way out in Oklahoma and did something in Philly. You know what I'm saying? So you won't know, and so you have to really be, doing the research to try to figure out where your loved ones are. And so that's what happened. My sister had to go looking for me to try to figure out where I was in Texas. And that's how I finally got a letter from her. But I was 6 months indigent. That means no money on my books. No, I had to eat whatever they served in the hall. You know what I'm saying? And I was Muslim, so no pork, and that's all they wanted to serve me. So I wasn't eating a lot.
I thought they don't have special eating accommodations.
I mean, maybe here in Pennsylvania, where a lot of people is Muslim, but in Texas, that's all they eat is the hog.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that wasn't happening for me. I was really eating like bread and rice and whatever. But my sister found me. A couple of my friends found me, and then I started getting commissary and stuff like that. But it was a hard 6 months. Yeah.
We're going to do a little bit locked up, and then we're going to go after the rebirth of Madusa.
Yeah.
But you're sitting there, you like, I got all this education. I know this system, both sides of the hand, and I'm here. What kind of head state were you in?
I don't really know. It feels like a blur in my life, to be honest. I don't even know how I survived it, to be honest. It was happening, you know what I'm saying? Those days turned to years, and then I was coming home. But I can remember the people. I can remember writing letters. And like I said, because as somebody who loves women, it wasn't the hardest thing that they could do to me. Solitary confinement, really hard. That's hard. But in terms of being incarcerated in and of itself, it wasn't the hardest thing. I'm like, if this is the worst y'all could do to me, it's, you know what I mean, I could survive it. But it kind of blurred out because I spent most of my time reading. Most of it was reading. Get whatever book I could get my hands on, I was reading it. I remember they snuck the 48 Laws of Power in because we weren't allowed to get it. But they did not want you to have it. They did not the 48 Laws of Power, the Art of Seduction, none of them Robert Greene books. They wanted you to have. And I couldn't understand that. What?
Do you understand now why?
I mean, I still even in acquiring the knowledge from the book, it's a book. And so, what are you scared of a book for? They wouldn't let me get Temple of My Familiar from Alice Walker. They, oh my God, what are y'all afraid of?
You never read a book? For me, for me, books made me travel.
Right.
When I physically couldn't, in a whole lot of ways.
Right.
And so, referencing Malcolm X, how reading was an explosion. It became an explosion in his head.
Right.
So for some people, that it might have been the only time in their lives where they sat down and were able to digest material that made them think outside of their current existence. You know what I'm saying? So and mind you, if we're talking about prison, right, or jail, and it's coming from a slave system, and enslaved folk were forbidden to read because having that knowledge and knowledge of self it changes you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I it might have even been reading is a meditation for me too. I don't know about you. So that even might be what it is you used it for. It's just to meditate and maintain something as you work it through.
And even a bigger part of that, I think, was becoming Muslim. So the type of support and community, the ummah that they have in jail is unmatched out here in the world. Like, they taught me Arabic. They taught me, you know what I'm saying? I read the whole Quran. We fasted for Ramadan, and we did it as a ummah. We did it together, and the COs had more respect for us and gave us, like, when it came to break fast, they wasn't serving us like if it was pork for lunch or whatever. They, you know what I'm saying? They made sure that, hey, let's give them something else. You know what I'm saying? So specifically for Ramadan, they would give us, you know, alternatives to pork or whatever. But it was an ummah. We did it together, and I've never felt that sense of community in the Muslim world out here. Yeah. That's a that absolutely, prayer, fasting, the ummah, learning about Islam, reading any books about Islam I could get my hands on, was definitely what saved me in there.
I have to go on record and say this. This is the first time I've ever spoken to somebody who was incarcerated to talk about what it was like being Muslim in a Muslim community while, incarcerated, in a women's facility. First time ever. You always hear the guys. You know what I'm saying? So this is revelatory for me. So let's talk about when you found out you were going home.
Yeah. So I maxed out.
Okay.
I did my whole sentence, and I knew it was coming, and I think I was maybe overwhelmed with where I would go, because going back to Texas didn't feel like the right solution. Like staying in Texas because I didn't want to go back to the old places. I didn't want nobody to see me, down bad. You know what I'm saying? If I had when I got locked up, I was doing good. I was flousing. Then I'm going to come back all, with these clothes on it. Gave me like, you know what I'm saying? With nothing. What I'm, working at McDonald's? What am I do? Like, so I didn't want to go there. So my thought was to go home. And so my sister was living in Pittsburgh. And so I went to Pittsburgh to live with her.
What year was this?
This is 2011.
Okay.
And so it was, I was changed. I was different. I was not the same person that went in. I think my family looked at me as the same person, but I wasn't. Even being around Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, it was different. Everything felt different to me. Everything, it tasted different. Like, life felt different.
Let's dissect that.
I think it's like I had been to war, and I was returning home, and nobody around me had been through that same thing, so you couldn't relate. And people were talking to me like, everything was supposed to go back to normal, but it wasn't. I was still getting up at 3 a.m. because that's what time you eat breakfast. I was still, I wanted to be a good Muslim or whatever. Like, I wanted to be a good Muslim, so my focus was being a good Muslim. But, you know what I mean? Even though, like, my siblings, my mom became Muslim. Prior to my incarceration, but nothing was regular, and so I had to come to terms with the fact that I was different, that I wasn't, that all the education in the world couldn't have prepared me for what I experienced. And even though, people didn't, try to kill me or slice me or stab me or shank me or whatever, it was still, it was still one of the worst experiences, like to have CEOs telling you what to do all the time, to witness the way that they treated women, to know that, like, I watched assaults, I seen people hang themselves, we watched, people die, and the CEOs do nothing about it. Like, we saw people, just inhumane treatment. And then to come back and like, oh no, oh I'm regular, let me go get a job, let me, whatever. It was like, it was just a whole metamorphosis. And so coming to terms with that and realizing what I needed to do different, because going back isn't an option.
So when you get out, did you? I hear you, and I don't want to. This is what I hear. It was kind of like an out of body experience, right. Almost.
Yeah.
Like people are talking to you, but it's like womp 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 womp, and you got all these thoughts going on in your head.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like blur blur womp 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 or whatever.
Yeah.
At what point did you know you kind of had to like ground yourself in order to be like, all right, I gotta move. Like I gotta do something.
Honestly, it was a couple of the folks that I went to school with had started an organization, and they were particularly talking about like the banning the shackling the mothers during childbirth. And I had just came home, and I felt sure that they would hire me, that they would empower me, and I could be like a spokesperson for this thing because I witnessed it, and they didn't. They didn't hire me. These is friends. These is folks that I went to school with. These are people that knew me before I went, but they didn't know me now. Mm-hmm. But y'all knew me before I went. Before I got locked up, and they didn't.
What were their reasoning? What was the reasoning?
I honestly don't know. For real, like I don't know what happened or why they didn't hire me, but that was really devastating. Mm-hmm. And so I poured my energy into hip hop. I poured my energy into rapping and to, being socially conscious about it. So that's why I say artivism instead of just a regular artist, because nothing I write about is just regular, I'm trying to, I'm not rapping for daps is what we say, So you can be like, oh, that's good. No. This is real rap. Mm-hmm. And so, just pouring myself into hip-hop, and that changed me. That really gave me a new, trajectory, so to speak, because it allowed me to use my intelligence and my experience, but it also allowed me to speak to the people that were experiencing the same thing, or speak to the people who didn't have words for what they were going through. Mm-hmm. And so it just, I found myself in different places. I found myself, writing grants for the first time because, like I said, I wasn't getting the jobs that I wanted to get. So, all of a sudden I'm writing a grant. And I may not have gotten the first grant because I didn't know how to do a budget or all of that. But one of my comrades, Rest with Allah, she like hit me to the game like, oh, this is how you do a budget, this is how you do whatever. And I wrote a grant and I got it. And then, the community started knowing who I was as an artist, and I started getting all these gigs. I started traveling with hip hop. That's how I got to LA. I just on all types of different stages. I got to perform with Beanie Sigel. I got Most Stuff, all of them. So I really got to perform with the greats. The greats, Talib Kweli, all of them. I got to perform with them. Cyroc. You know what I mean? Tep Poe from out St. Louis. Just had an opportunity to build with them and to perform, and it just changed my life. And it gave me something to like kind of work towards and strive for and all of that.
So your career as an artivist is what you do now full time.
So, in so many words. So I'm actually an activist in real time. Mm-hmm. And so like I'm actually in the streets. I actually created my own organization.
Okay.
I actually, am, I don't call it social justice as much as the activism, because I think social justice is more of a buzz term. You know what I'm saying? And I think the activism speaks to the heart and the passion for the work or whatever. It's like even when there's not a check, I'm here for it. You know what I mean? And so I had already been doing the work for political prisoners. Mm-hmm. So Russell Maroon Schultz, Rest with Allah. I had been a community organizer and was working with something he had called Scientific Soul Sessions. Mm-hmm. And so just writing to him and talking to him and
When did the car stop? I thought I heard something stop. Good. Okay.
yeah, just writing to him, building with him, and getting his knowledge and wisdom. Excuse me. Also empowered me to like get more into the work around political prisoners, and then from there, I ended up being assaulted by a police officer in Pittsburgh. So, for those y'all don't know, Pittsburgh is a really racist place. So there is, it's a community of black folks there, but they're so used to the racism that I don't even think it phases them the same. You know what I mean? Because they're used to it. But for me, as long as I lived in Houston, I never experienced racism. As long as I lived in Texas, I never experienced any sort of racism at all. It was living in Pittsburgh that I experienced being called a nigga, that I experienced being discriminated against.
Say that. A lot of people, especially living up north. I'm earmarking this. Excuse me. People living up north. When I came up here, and I tell people like my father's from Mississippi and my mother's from Louisiana, the South is like the boogeyman.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like some of the worst cases that I've experienced is being up north or in LA. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm glad you said that, because part of the disconnect I think we have as black folk regionally is that we think that some places are, you know what I mean, will be so systemically worse, for you as a black person when you go to these places. And I've been traveling the South a lot because I work with farmers. You go to these places and you see the ways in which black people have created communities that are in some ways impenetrable, not always. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Right, because as Malcolm X said, Malcolm X is coming up. You're like, anything south of Canada, what is the South?
Right. Period.
Right.
Period. So it was hard to live there, and so I moved out twice. And when I came back, I moved out twice. When I came back from Atlanta, I knew that I'm like, okay, I gotta go. But even in undergrad, as soon as I graduated, I didn't go get a cap and gown and wait for this. I'm like, send me my degree in the mail. I'm out. As soon as I knew, like, oh, I passed that test. Oh, I passed my final. I'm graduating. Good. I'm out. Just because I experienced racism in undergrad. And going back, the only reason I went back was because my sister was there. And I knew that she would, like, at least help me get on my feet. But fast forward, I'm there, 2017. I'm assaulted by a police officer at a movie theater. And with all my experience and all my knowledge, the officer is harassing these young black girls at the theater. He's calling them all types of names. He's calling them maniacs and animals and whatever. And I was just like, you can't talk to them like that. And he proceeded to talk to them like that. And so I whipped out my phone. You know what I'm saying? iPhone 7, shout out. You know what I'm saying? Just because the iPhone 7 didn't stop rolling. And maybe any phone would have stopped rolling or whatever, but that particular phone did not stop rolling. And so throughout the whole altercation, it didn't stop. From the moment he put his hands on me to, you know what I mean? Like, he drugged me. He flipped me. He did all types of things to me. And then I was arrested. And so, like, I had a bunch of charges on me. Like, they gave me so many charges that it was like, what? But I didn't do anything but record this guy. And so, once I went through that case and I won, I left. I was like, no, sir. No, sir. You're not going to catch me. You know what I'm saying? Because the FOP has their parade there every year. Right. Like, the FOP, and they don't play about theirs. And so y'all will get me missing.
And, and a tactic, by the police, and I've recently learned this, is that when they don't have a case, they'll stack as many charges against you, hoping that you don't have the resources to fight the charges, and that you just go ahead and take a plea out. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, especially if you already are you convicted, or you know what I mean. You got something on there. You already in the system. So that's just something for people, to know, because I work with several people, and this one particular case, they stacked so many charges against this sister. And so, and this is not just women, but this is just, this how it works, that they felt that they couldn't fight it. And so they just pled out. But, then that makes you vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? If you get stopped, and then you get targeted, especially if you known as somebody who resisted the police. So I'm glad you won. How long was the case?
I think I fought it for maybe a year or two.
Wow.
So I had some great lawyers that are about the movement. I don't know if I can mention them. That's why I'm not going to say their name. I don't know if I can say them. But they're really known for getting people home. They're known for working with folks who are incarcerated. They're really great at what they do. And so they've been on a lot of the bigger cases in Pennsylvania. And they took my case pro bono. And like, needless to say, we won. But I didn't feel safe in being there. A lot of the, because once they start getting into you as a person that resisted this thing, there's a whole slew of things that opened up. So they started digging into my past and what type of person I was. They they went into like my Facebook and started to say, oh, I was a what they call it, oh my gosh, I can't think of what it's called, but it's like when you're like against the police, I can't think of the name.
Not a menace to society, but an anti-establishment, a threat. Oh
man, it's a name for it. I can't think of it right now, but they basically tried to build the case that I was this person that was racist, that I hated white people, that I hated the police, that, which is not like, it's not the furthest from the truth. But one of the things that they, one of the things that they pulled out, it was this video that I reposted of this black woman whooping on this white lady in the welfare office. Like the white lady had smacked her in the face. And she like kicked her shoes off and dug it toward. They used this, like they literally brought this up. Like I'm like, but it's not even me. It's not me. This is somebody that was shared, but it was like just the hype around the person. And so the news reporters they did like a whole smear campaign. They had everything in the world to say about me, and it just, like I said, it didn't feel safe because I was wondering, well, how did the people were calling me, and I'm like, well, how did y'all get my number? It's like, oh, we have our sources. Oh no, we're not going to do that with sources. I'm going to go. And so I had some comrades here in Philadelphia who was like, yeah, listen, come here. We got you. And so I came here, and it kind of changed things up for me because I went from working, around political prisoners to working around women in incarceration. And I worked for a couple organizations that empowered me and taught me more grassroots organizing than I was used to. And so I started my own organization, Mary's Daughter for the Formerly Incarcerated. We founded the Dignity Act Now Collective. We went to our legislators and got them to introduce different bills around women in incarceration. We got those bills introduced to the point where they ended up, national organizations came in and picked it up. And so we had a bill that they consolidated all of these bills to one bill. And we had Republicans supporting it. It got out of committee unanimously. And that's unheard of for like criminal justice reform bills. Yeah. So we got it out of, committee unanimously. It got to the Senate and got a little stuck. And so we introduced it again.
Okay.
And so I kind of moved away from the political arena as much as I wanted to make sure that the community in and of itself was being empowered, because it's one thing to, to introduce these legislation and to, for it to be symbolic, but it's another thing for people to know that they have these rights.
Yeah, I mean, that's some really good points that you're making. And as well, to know that bills can take years, if at all, to pass.
Right.
And then when they pass, what does that look like when it is implemented, if it is really implemented in the communities? So I'm going to start right there, and then I'm going to work my way back to your sister in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So what were some of the, when you were working with the groups, what were some of the main points that were being advocated for or addressed in terms of women incarcerated or formerly incarcerated women?
Well, we banned the shackling of mothers during childbirth. I mean, y'all don't even do this to dogs. So to shackle a mother during childbirth, like it's what they say, it's like 200 something bones being broken at the same time, and you got me shackled.
Mm.
So that was a thing, and even though we banned it, again, prisons are more privatized than we think they are, and so what goes on inside this prison may not be legal. But who gonna tell it?
Mm-hmm.
Who gonna check me?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was an issue. Just unlimited hygiene items. So the state will give you 6 tampons and 6 pads. I don't know anybody's cycle that can
for a month.
For a month, this is what you got. This is what you got.
Some people will run through that in a day if they have heavy cycles.
Listen. And so they would do that, and if you wanted more, you would have to show proof that you needed more.
What you gonna do? Show them your damn panties? Okay.
And I can remember us, like, we would say the most, especially like to the male CEOs, we would say, I got blood clots. We would try to get as gruesome as we could, and they would just throw the box at us. Here, just take it. And so the hygiene items, the being at a distance from your loved ones to where they can't come and visit you. And there's only 2 state prisons in Pennsylvania. So like someone being from Philly and being sentenced to Cambridge Springs, which is 8 hours west. Like whose family can get out there? Mm-hmm. Or being from Pittsburgh and being sentenced to Muncie, whose family can get there? And then what do you have to take? You got to stay at a hotel. You got to do this, whatever, because it's not like a turnaround trip. Mm-hmm. You got to stay overnight. So, having lack of access to your families, the punishments behind the walls is punitive. CO, sexual assault, going unpunished. All they do is move them around to another facility, and you're stuck with that. Mm. And you can even get a case if you get pregnant. That's on you. That's on you. Wow. That's on you. You did that. And so just, witnessing these things, but trying to put, some protections around it.
Along with being an educator, an artist, and an activist, Blak Rap Madusa also digs deep into her spirituality.
About one more thing.
Okay.
Intimacy. You
well, I'm in my Yawo years, so that's...
people don't know what Yawo is.
So I'm in the Ifa tradition, it's the Yoruba tradition, and a lot of our folks throughout the diaspora, they kept it on their tongue. So throughout slavery, they were persecuted for practicing this, but a lot of people continue to practice it, and they hid it in the saints, they hid it in types of religion, they hid it in hoodoo, they hid it in voodoo, they hid it in, Santeria, they hid it in candomblé, they hid it in different ways, but we still practiced it. And so this is from the mouth of slaves that left the continent with this on their tongue and with this in their hearts. And so it's made its way up to today. You find more practitioners, probably more than ever before, that we don't have to hide in the shadows. We don't have to pretend anymore. So we have a whole pantheon. Imagine being able to name your angels. Imagine being able to connect with your spirit guides and people who have passed away. Imagine that energy doesn't die, it only changes form. Because that's essentially what we're talking about. And so being initiated into IFA requires some discipline, as with anything. But there are some restrictions that just like we're talking about, bringing our people back from, from being so immersed in, Western society. That's part of it. It's part of bringing them back as to African culture, African way of life. And don't get me wrong, some of the things that are patriarchal and toxic, we probably want to, keep those parts away. But the good thing about bringing the traditions back is that it also helps us to reconnect with the land, reconnect with the universe, reconnect with God in a different way. We've been learning, through a Christian lens. And there's nothing wrong with Christianity if we're moving from a decolonized lens. Or we're moving from, unfortunately, the New King James Version, which was, rewritten by our oppressors. We're going to find that we're oppressed. We're going to find that we're relying on a Jesus that ain't coming. And it's not to say, again, that Christianity is bad. It's to say that what we've been taught is bad. We've been taught from an enslaved perspective. We've been taught to be good slaves until we die. And so part of reconnecting with the African culture and our traditions is to raise our own self up. We cannot expect our oppressors to raise us up. And so in that year, so there's a year and 7 days in the Santeria that
once you get initiated,
you have a year and 7 days to do these certain things, certain restrictions or whatever. And so I'm in that. And so when we talk about intimacy,
one of that is celibacy.
Yeah,
that's
that's my long way of saying that.
You can't do nothing for you said a year and 7 days.
Yeah, 7 days. Yeah, that's happening. So it's new for me, as someone, again, that I think my relationship or lack thereof with my mother has, pushed me into places that, I don't know, could be better in the way that I move and deal with women or whatever. But it also forces me to see energy as intimate too, and to know that exchanging energy is the intimate thing. Because nobody can touch me, so I'm all touch deprived and everything. You know what I'm saying? Not that y'all need to know all that, but it is energetic intimacy is something that I'm learning about, and I invite people to begin to touch people without touching them, and to practice building with people without having this sexualized mindset. Because I think that's what's happening to us as a people. We've been sexualized. Everything about what we do, whether we just walking down the street or sitting down somewhere or put on certain clothes or whatever, has been sexualized and over sexualized to the point where we can't even see ourselves as regular. Because that's all we're looked at. You know what I'm saying? And it's detrimental to our mental health to have to constantly be aware of what you have on. To be aware of where you're going, what time are you going there, what you say what are you saying on social media, what are you saying to somebody, having to, like rejection is real, and people are not fond of it, and we find that so especially for women-bodied folks, feminine-bodied folks are not safe in our communities. And are not protected.
So I'm gonna get a little bit more personal. How has your understanding of your intimate self and your sexual self has evolved? Even if you weren't initiated, like how has it evolved? Like what are some major points?
That's a heavy question. I think it's also not connecting it to my worthiness. Because I think for a long time my self-worth was wrapped up in my intimacy. And so where I am now, is not allowing that to be like a part of my self-worth. Not allowing that to be connected to being worthy of spending time with people, and also not making that about, other people, because for a minute I thought, if I'm hanging around her, we gotta be, are we not? And so when we not hanging out, like, we not, what am I hanging out for, but learning that and understanding that and not allowing that energy to dictate how I move in the world is something that's it's a work in progress, but it's something that I think all of us need to understand, and to not allow these, our enslavers essentially to keep us, perpetuating their ideas of us.
I think that that's a good, solid ending in how do you move through the world with maintaining your sexual self and your intimacy, and using that as the superpower, and rooting you and not having to be physical at all. Right. That's dope. So I always, though, before I officially end, is there anything that you wanted to mention that was not asked or was not mentioned that you want to add to the gumbo pot of this conversation?
I believe y'all with a couple.
I was gonna ask, but I don't want to be like, okay, let's go, Medusa. You need a beat.
No, I don't. I'm gonna hit it
very
acapella.
Hit it.
I was just trying to think of what to say. Black rap is hip hop like the stew up in your mama home. Old millennial like Reaper and some dominoes. Last Mohican, I speak and make it prodigal. Third eye, Jedi, I be cheap until it's logical. Get to the root just like a follicle, bars of freedom, exercising demons even cast the preachers out. The good die young, we don't discover what they reach about. Yoruba tongue, I spellbound what I teach about. Black slap like steel drums, catch the leak about a priest's mouth. That's it.
Well, I say on that one. I'm a do. Okay. Thank you. That was dope. That was dope. Well, I look forward to rhyming with you in the future.
Let's do it.
Chopping it up. Thank you so much for being a part of the Being Beloved podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You are actually the officially last person we're interviewing, and we could not have ended on a more powerful note. So
awesome.
Asheo. That's it.
I'm starting a new life.
We would like to thank the Valentine Foundation for providing the seed grant to make this podcast series happen. As well, a huge shout out to the Linfest Journalism Institute and the Knight Linfest Transformation Fund, where the Being Beloved podcast was developed under the Philadelphia Media Founders Exchange program. And also, thank you to Love Now Media, who signed on as our first community media partner. Plus, we must recognize 5 Shorts Project and Sunkiss Group for giving the support we needed to finish this epic first series and bringing the project to Cherry Street Pier number 9 for a live launch. Now, if there's anyone on the inside listening to this podcast, know that we see you. And for those coming home, know we embrace you and wish you a healing journey and transformation. Until next time, be beloved, beloveds.
I'm starting a new life, turn wrongs into right. This is the Being Beloved podcast.